Hi, I'm Jeremy, and today we're going to take a look at another Spiel de Jahres winner. This is Thurn and Taxis, which, as you can see, won the award in 2006. And this is a game where players are going to be trying to establish the German postal system. And that doesn't sound very exciting, but this game is actually an interesting route building game where players are going to be collecting cards that are tied to cities printed on the board, trying to create routes. There's always a push your luck aspect in the game because players might take cards and not be able to add to a route, and if they do that, they would lose all of their progress on a route. So it's going to be a race game as players place their routes around the board, trying to pick up bonus tiles, which will score them points at the end of the game. I'll take a minute to show you how the game works, and then I'll come back and give you my thoughts on it. At the start of a game of Thurn and Taxis, you'll have the map set up like this with all of these bonus tokens which go in appropriate spaces, stacked from low to high with the highest on top. And then essentially that is all you're going to do. You'll also set up 6 cards here in this display and set up these carriage bonus cards across the top of the board. Each player will be given 20 of these little tokens, which are going to be post offices in their color, and then the game would begin. Oh, the player would also get one of these carriage houses to just store their carriage cards. And on a turn, the player is going to be able to draw one card from this display and then do a second action. And this is laid out well on a turn summary sheet that's included with the game. So you could see you could always add a city card to your hand, which is just draw one of these 6 cards. You could play a city card, which is just play it to your essential route that you're building of post offices. And then you could score any played cards, and that would be closing off a route, and that's an optional action. And that would have to be at least 3 cards within your route that you're building. And then additionally, you'll be able to use one of these officials for their special ability, and only one per turn, but you can use one every turn. So the powers are essentially here, the postal carrier allows you to play 2 cards instead of playing 1 toward a route, to take an additional card from your hand when you're choosing from the 6. The administrator allows you to exchange all 6 of these cards, so just swipe them out and populate that display with 6 new cards before you draw. And then the Cartwright, he allows you when you're closing out a route to add 2 carriages to the length of that route, up to 2 carriages. And I'll explain what that means in a moment. But in practice, this is going to work like this. At the start of the game, you start with no cards, so you will most likely draw 2 cards from the display here. And ideally, you want to build up cards, or you want to collect cards that are going to be adjacent to one another. So Zurich and Basel here in Switzerland would be fine. So you could draw both of those, and then you'll be required to play one of those to a route. So you're always required to either start or extend an existing route. So Basel, I would play there. And then this would get refilled. Other players would take their turns, which would change the cards that are available. And then when it would come back to me, I would be able to, again, use one of those special powers, draw a card, play a card. And let's see. Since I do have Zurich already, I'd ideally like something that's next to here. There is not anything. Oh, actually, there is. So that'd be fine. I could just take this card here, and if I wanted to, I could use my special ability to play both cards. And you have to keep the order of the cards that you're playing. And normally you'd be playing them face down in front of you, but you have to keep them in order. So now I have Basel to Zurich to Sigmaringen, and that would be a connected route. So that'd be my turn. And then I would get to play another card. And you can see the routes are depicted on the board, so you'll have to pay attention to the board. Now, at the start of my next turn, I'd be in a bit of a dilemma because none of these cards would connect to my route, these 3 cities here that I already have. So I might want to use the special action to clear out the cards and deal 6 new ones, because before I could close out a route, I am required to add to it. The steps are in order: take a card, play a card, close a route. So I draw my 6 cards here, and I did not get one. So if I did not get one, I would have to draw a card, and then I would have to close out this route before I played a card, because none of these cards are adjacent to these 3 cities I've already built, which is unfortunate. I would just close this out, just basically discard these because I'm closing it out before I'm playing a card, and then I would have to start a route with the card that I'm playing. But let's just say that for the sake of the demonstration that I got a card that was adjacent to what I've already built. Let me just find one. So let's say Stuttgart had come out here and I took that as my draw card. I'd be able to add that to my route, and then I would be able to close out this route. So because it's Basel to Zurich to Sigmaringen to Stuttgart up here. So when you close out a route, three things happen. First of all, you're able to place post offices of your color on the board. And you have the option of either placing them all within one color, so I could place both in Basel and Zurich, or I could just place in Sigmaringen or Stuttgart. Or you could place one in each color that you've gone through. So for example, then I could place in Basel one in this dark green and one in this light green. So you have to make that decision. And then that would be the end of that. Then if you would qualify for any of these bonus tokens, you claim them. I have not yet. I'll explain those in a minute. And then the third thing that happens is you check the route of the length of your claimed route. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. And then you would take the next carriage card that you're eligible for if you qualify for it. So at the start of the game, you'll have none. So you need to close a route that's going to be that has at least 3 carriages in it, and you could claim that. Even though I closed a route that had 4, I cannot claim the 4 card before I claim the 3 card. And you can see that these cards are going to be worth a certain number of victory points at the end of the game. So I would just put that then on my carriage house. These cards would get discarded, and that would be the end of my turn. So this game's going to keep going like that over the course of the game, with players playing cards, extending routes, closing routes, and placing their post offices. Several of these bonus tokens the players will be eligible for as soon as they meet the requirements. I'll just go over those requirements. So on the map itself, you'll see these bonus tokens that have either 1 or 2 colors. So here's an example with these 2 colors, and they correspond with the various colored provinces that are on the board. So here I have this one here. It's light and dark green. There's only 1 city in the dark green and 2 in the light green. As soon as I would place a post office in the city of Ulm, I would be able to claim the top tile from that area, which you could see is going to be worth 3 points at the end of the game. You can only claim those bonuses once per game, and they descend in value as they go down. So there's basically 1 for this area up here, 1 for this light and blue area, 1 for this giant gray area, then there's 1 for these orange and red areas. Then lots over here does not have a tile tied to it, but instead you would need a place there in order to claim this tile here, which is essentially having 1 post office in each of the different colored provinces, and those are going to be worth up to 6 points depending on how quickly you claim them. Over here we have awards for the first person to close out a route that is 7 carriages or more, 6 carriages, or 5 carriages, and these are first come first serve. Players could choose or could claim multiple ones of those. If a player claims a 7 and the 7s are all gone but there's still 6s, they could take a 6. And again, at the end of every route that you claim, you're going to check to see which one of these you might qualify for and add that to your pile, and again that would be victory points as well. So this is just going to keep going until a player either claims one of these 7 carriage cards, which will be worth 10 points itself at the end of the game, or until a player plays out all of their post office tokens, and you have 20 of those. Then you'll do a final scoring where players will add up all the points that they've collected. The player who actually triggered the end of the game will get this 1 point token, just an extra point for triggering the end of the game. There is this first player marker, and players will continue the current round until everybody's had an equal number of turns, I should mention. And then also at the end of the game, every unplayed post office will be minus 1 point. Then whoever has the most points at the end of all that will be the winner. I should also mention that there's a good expansion for this game. There are actually 2, but there's only one that's good. So this is the Power and Glory expansion, and this is essentially another map, which just gives you more variety to play with. And it plays largely the same, except that when it has a different set of cards in it, which have horses on the back. And in order to close out a route, you need to have at least as many horseshoes in your display as you do cities in your display. So it gives you another tactical consideration to consider when you're choosing cards. Also, it has some independent city-states that will score points just for first person to go through there. They're not linked to other major provinces. So just a little bit of a variety, and that is Thurn and Taxis. Okay, so that is Thurn and Taxis, and this is actually one of my favorite games to have won the Spiel des Jahres. I'd say certainly in my top 10. This game does not look that exciting. Certainly the theme doesn't seem that exciting to most players, but the mechanics of it are really smoothly done. I think that it plays almost like a more open-ended version of Ticket to Ride, where you're going to be trying to collect cards of a certain color and to create routes on the board. But here, instead of having preconceived route cards, you only have those bonus tokens to really guide your playing, and those are sometimes placed in conflict with one another. So for example, going after that 6-point tile for placing one in each of the different colored cities is in conflict with the tiles for the individual provinces, which want you to concentrate on that one province. And players are going to be going after all these at the same time, so it is a bit of a race. You have to kind of play what the other players are doing to a greater degree than in Ticket to Ride. Something that I didn't mention, I think, in my run view is that players cannot block one another out of a city. So very often in this game, players will be contesting each other for the same city, and just to get there first and get that one extra point, because in this game you would be lucky to score 25 to 30 points. That's often enough to win. Sometimes it goes a little higher, but because of that, each individual point wins. So a point your opponent's getting is basically a point that you're not getting. And also I like that there are other interests to consider as well. Those carriage tiles are worth a lot of points potentially, and because of that, sometimes you'll want to extend a route longer than it needs to extend for your purposes of placing your post offices, just because you want to get the next step up carriage tile, and that's an interesting dynamic as well. And also those 4 special powers, the fact that you get to use one every turn, really adds to the enjoyment of the game and adds to your tactical decision making that's possible. This is a game that I've really enjoyed since it's come out. Some people have bagged on it, I think, because it's pretty similar to Ticket to Ride, but I think it's an absolutely worthy winner of the award. It's something that I enjoy a lot, and that Power and Glory expansion has only kept it in my rotation of games. So I would enthusiastically recommend that you check out Thurn and Taxis, the 2006 Spiel des Jahres winner.